Everyone told me I didn't belong at the funeral. Everyone except one person, and her decision would cost them everything. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and for 15 years I was married to David. We built a life together. Modest, but genuine. David came from old money. His family came from even older money. But money, as I would learn, doesn't buy class. When David passed away from a sudden heart attack at just 48, I thought his family would rally around me. I thought they'd mourn together. I was wrong. I was so wrong. David had two siblings, Marcus, a pharmaceutical executive, and Catherine, a trust fund socialite. Their mother, Eleanor, was 89 and had raised them to believe that marriage was beneath their station unless the spouse had the right pedigree. I was a school teacher. To them, I was a gold digger who'd somehow tricked their brother. The truth? David had to fight them to marry me. The funeral was held at their country club, a place I'd been to exactly twice in 15 years, because they made it clear I wasn't welcome at their events. The service was beautiful, but what happened after? As people were leaving, Eleanor pulled me aside in the hallway. Her eyes were cold, clinical. She told me that I had no right to wear black, that it was an insult to the family's grief. She said that if David had been thinking clearly, he would have left me years ago. Marcus overheard and laughed. He actually laughed. He told me I'd soon find out what it meant to be married to a Mitchell, because the will reading would show me that I got nothing. He said David had the sense to protect the family fortune from me. Catherine joined in, asking in front of other guests if I'd been planning the funeral with any of David's actual family money, or if I was expecting his mother to cover the costs. The insinuation was clear. I was a burden they had to tolerate. I stood there, humiliated. Guests stared. Some tried to comfort me, others looked embarrassed for me, and Eleanor just smiled, that thin, brittle smile of someone who'd never been told no in her entire life. I left the funeral early. I went home, closed all the doors, and I cried. The next 2 weeks were the darkest of my life, not because of grief. I was grieving, yes, but because I was terrified. Marcus was right about one thing. I had no idea what David had left me. My parents called constantly, asking if I was okay. My best friend Sarah stayed with me for 3 days. The school district gave me compassionate leave, but none of it changed the fact that I was facing my future alone, and the people who should have supported me had turned me into a villain in their narrative. I couldn't afford to keep the house. It had been David's before we married, technically his family's. I'd already gotten a call from their lawyer saying they wanted to discuss the disposition of property. I had no job during my leave, no savings in my name. David had handled finances because his family insisted it was proper. I had jewelry, some photographs, and the humiliation. I actually sat down and made a list of what I owned in the world. It took me 5 minutes. On day 16 after the funeral, I got a certified letter from Eleanor's attorney. My heart stopped. I was sure she was evicting me from the house. Instead, it was an invitation to the will reading. The letter said Eleanor had passed peacefully in her sleep the night before. I didn't know what to feel. Relief? Guilt for feeling relief? Anger? The will reading was scheduled 3 days later at the same country club. I considered not going, but something in me needed to go. Maybe I needed closure. Maybe I needed them to see that I wasn't broken. I wore a navy suit, not black, but not the bright colors they might have expected from their version of a gold digger. I did my makeup carefully. I stood straighter than I had in weeks. The lawyer's office was the size of my entire house. Marcus and Catherine were already there, whispering together, probably planning how to divide their mother's fortune. They barely looked at me when I walked in. The lawyer, a man named Harrison, who'd worked with the family for 30 years, looked uncomfortable. That should have been my first clue. He began reading Eleanor's will in the formal way these things are done. To Marcus, a trust fund worth $8 million, with stipulations on charitable giving. To Catherine, another $7 million in investments and property. Then he paused. To my daughter-in-law, Sarah Mitchell, who has shown more grace and dignity in the face of this family's cruelty than any of us deserve, I leave the following. My hands started shaking. Eleanor had changed her will 3 months ago, right after she told David she disapproved of me. She left me her personal jewelry collection, worth approximately $2.3 million. She left me her artwork, valued at $4.7 million. She left me a beach house in the Hamptons, worth $5.2 million. And she left me an annual stipend of $250,000 for the rest of my life. She left me nearly $12 million in total assets. But that's not what made Marcus stand up and turn white. There was a condition in the will, the lawyer explained. Eleanor had been explicit about this. The will stated, these assets are left to Sarah Mitchell because she is the only person in this family who has shown me kindness without expecting return. She has been insulted.